Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Today we have a session of avenues of applications of artificial intelligence in health and medtech. Before we start the session, I would like to play one video of CI Bayadi. Please have a look. Thank you for watching this video. Now I would like to introduce our CI Bayadi Innovation Cell. CI Bayadi Center for Innovation in Biodesign aims to promote innovation in medical devices and instruments by creating a conductive ecosystem involving multiple brain trust institutes. The objectives of CI Bayadi involves devising indigenous technologies, instruments, and devices for affordable healthcare, designing development and deployment of indigenous medical devices, establishing solutions and approaches for various prevalent medical problems. These are the objectives of CI Bayadi. Now the short-term attachment objectives, firstly, we all know this program is organized mainly for young and bright students who want to polish their skills to get involved with cutting-edge health-related technologies. The various salient features of this program involves learning about innovation, incubation, prototyping, clinical validations, and commercialization. Personal interaction program with our experts of medtech industry. It involves flexible hours of training, and also certificate will be given after successful completion of this program. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Sakshi to please take over the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. I, on behalf of CI Biology team, myself, Sakshi, I am professor at University Institute of Engineering and Technology, Computer Science and Engineering at Punjab University, Chandigarh. So I welcome all guests present today, our guest of honor, our chief guest, our speaker for today's session, all students and faculty members. So firstly, we are honored to have with us Dr. Dibakar Bhattacharya. He is today's guest of honor. So Dr. Dibakar, let me introduce you all to Dr. Dibakar. Dr. Dibakar works as Director Government Affairs at Medtronic India. He did his MBA from IIM Indore in 2003 and BE Mechanical Engineering from Jabadpur University in 1998. He worked at Eli Lilly and Company as Director Corporate Affairs and managed business development and alliance strategy, policy, advocacy, and so on. He is purpose-oriented, versatile senior leader with rich experience across F500 companies in sales and marketing. He specializes in market access, key account strategy and execution, corporate business development, alliance management, etc. He has successfully led several intrapreneurial growth projects and mentoring team members over years towards creating exceptional career trajectories. He also worked with Accenture, Johnson & Johnson. He, as a manager, delivered high-performance sales acceleration project for major automobile client in Accenture also. A very warm welcome, Dr. Dibakar Bhattacharya. Sir, over to you.
Thanks a lot for this warm welcome. It is my honor and privilege to be present in this meaningful session, and particularly at a time when we all are looking for answers in healthcare to fight this pandemic around coronavirus, right? Firstly, I am an engineer, not a doctor by profession.
Okay. Yeah.
But of course, I share this understanding and ethos to promote innovation for medical science. And we are at a juncture where medicine, engineering, research and development all are coming together to find solutions. I really love the title of this session today, the avenues of application of artificial intelligence for health and medtech. So today, Medtronic is world's largest medical devices company. We have a vision that will become a largest medical technology company. And why we are saying this? Because we know that there is a need of bringing in all the special kind of cutting edge technologies for finding medical solutions today. So for example, for stroke therapy, we have brought in artificial intelligence to have diagnosis of stroke at a pretty early stage. And we have also launched it in India last year. In addition, last year, we inaugurated our Hyderabad Innovation Center, which is the R&D center. This is the largest R&D center of Medtronic outside US. And there the connection with India comes in, and particularly very relevant for this forum that I'm speaking to. We understand in India, we have a tremendous potential in terms of brain. And I love that brain trust creation by you, because we have very credible and very bright medical science, engineering, and research students coming out of us. And that's the reason we have chosen India as hub for innovation for medical technology outside US. So that's a very proper focus here. Another thing, just very quickly, would like to say that if we look around us, there is so much of need of application of artificial intelligence and other medical technologies. For example, today when we are looking for answer, how do we fight corona? One of the issues that we are already possibly seeing that many of our friends reach out to us for understanding what will be the right solution at the right time. Somebody is getting a solution pretty early, somebody is not getting a solution after possibly 8 to 10 days. And possibly there is a huge need of application of artificial intelligence. And that's why we are all looking at centers like CIBRD to find proper answers. And time is possibly the right at this point of time. Thank you so much.
Exactly. You are right, Dibakarji. And you being one of our members of Innovation Council, we are fortunate enough to have you, and we would be getting your guidance in our future endeavors too. Thank you very much, Dibakarji. And we would like to, next slide please. We would like to present, because of this pandemic, we cannot physically hold this meeting. So for now, we are presenting you virtually this token of appreciation from CIBIOD in your recognition for your outstanding service, and also looking forward for your guidance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we'll sending this to your address too.
We are really privileged and honored. This is our privilege to work with you, with this young team of scientists, designers, and medical scientists. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining today. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. Vinod Kumar with us, our chief guest and presiding guest for today's session. Welcome, sir. Very warm welcome, sir. So let me introduce Professor Vinod Kumar to you all. He is currently Vice Chancellor in JP University of Information and Technology, Solan, Himachal Pradesh. Dr. Vinod was Deputy Director and Professor of Electrical Engineering at IIT Roorkee for 21 years. He won the Best Teacher Award of IIT Roorkee, and he has about 180 research papers to his credit in the area of medical instrumentation and signal processing. He spent 41 years at IIT. He held many positions in IIT Roorkee administration, that is Dean Faculty of Affairs, Head of Electrical Engineering Department, Continuing Education Center, Quality Improvement Program Center, Information Superhighway Center, and Audiovisual Center. He has many awards, distinction, and scholarships to his credit, including the Khosla Research Award of University of Roorkee and so on. So, sir did his PhD from IIT Roorkee only, and MTech in Measurement and Instrument from IIT Roorkee, and BSc Engineering, Electrical Engineering from PEC Chandigarh. Very warm welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving so elaborate my introduction. I am very thankful to you, and I am also very fortunate that I am associated with CIBIOD. As my background has been told, that I spent most of my time, that is more than 40 years in IIT Roorkee at various positions, and in 2016 I was superannuated from IIT Roorkee as professor and deputy director. My main interest of research was throughout my career was in the area of signal and image processing, and especially application to medical signals and medical images. I did good work to develop algorithms and you can say signal analysis softwares, etc., especially for ECG signal and EEG signal. Even a database was also developed with the help of University of Glasgow, Professor Peter McFarlane, for the healthy Indian young population, normal healthy Indian young population, so that we can find out what are the normal limits for Indian population with respect to the normal limits of Chinese people, Scandinavian people, or American. And we could find out there is a difference in the normal limits, so that we can uh, take care of those normal limits variation in the automatic diagnosis softwares which are being used in ECG signal analysis, etc., by various fields, etc. We use Atria 600 ECG machines for this particular purpose. If I recall, I had visited Medtronics also in long back, maybe 10 years back, in US, Seattle also. Anyway, for the last 15 to 20 years, I was into, first I started with the biomedical engineering to teach instrumentation required for medical purposes to the engineering students. So this biomedical engineering, I started in IIT Roorkee, and then a good number of skill development programs were also conducted. So I had a association with the All India Medical Institute, Delhi, and PGI Chandigarh. So in the area of image processing, we have developed a good database with PGI Chandigarh. Professor Khandelwal was the head of the radiology department. So we have a good database on annotated database on ultrasound as well as CTs. And that was used to develop algorithm for the detection of tumors. So my main interest is to develop skilled manpower in the area of biomedical engineering, artificial intelligence, signal processing. Now recently, the you can say machine learning and deep learning. And that is also being taken even in my present job as Vice Chancellor of JP University of Information Technology in Himachal Pradesh. Here also, I have introduced these subjects as proficiency, so that people can develop skill in this particular area. I am very happy that I am associated with this particular center, where young personalities, young students are there to do some innovation. I am, for the last so many years, I am always associated with the younger population, and I feel very happy, and I feel young also by having interaction with all these. With these words, I thank the CIBIOD for inviting me to this particular program. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So we are again fortunate enough for your contribution in our various endeavors related to CIBIOD activities, and you are guiding us time to time in different activities. Thank you, sir. And for the same, we are presenting you for time now virtual token of appreciation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll be waiting for your presidential remarks at the end of the session.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So now I hand over the session to Aishwarya to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Anuj. Dr. Anuj, welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Aishwarya, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sakshi. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker for today. That is Dr. Anuj Sharma, who has been working as an associate professor in Department of Computer Science and Applications at Punjab University. He has finished his PhD from Thapar Institute, as well as completed his postdoc from RWTH in Germany. His core research lies in pattern recognition and machine learning, as well as in handwriting recognition, SVM classifications, and online learning algorithms. His name accounts for 20 plus publications, 15 plus invited talks, along with 12 plus conferences. And also he is being a recipient of PERS Award, which basically means Promotion of University Research and Scientific Excellence under DST in 2018. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So should I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, so let me share the screen first. So I hope my screen is visible to all of you. And
Yes, sir, your screen is visible.
okay, so first of all, thanks to all of you, and allow me to speak for this valuable program where I will talk about artificial intelligence in relation to health and medtech industry. And as per the time allotted to me, so kindly excuse if my speed is not subject to expectation, but I will try to cover in the time. And I would like to mention that at the end of this presentation, I would like to give you a demonstration of software working that what we are doing for today in healthcare for COVID-19 Chandigarh data, the patterns we have found, right? So let's first understand this artificial intelligence with respect to computer system. The contents will mainly flow in 3 steps. The first of all, I would like to give computer science background, which is important for students, as I have been updated that most of the students are in their graduation and post-graduation level. Then I will take you to the introduction of artificial intelligence, and further I will take you to machine learning and its role in healthcare industry. So let's first start understanding the computer science. If you look at this image is from 1955 from the IBM labs. And this IBM lab is having that innovative, the most advanced computer. Interestingly, this is the size of one big hall, 20 by 24 feet. And this is one computer only, where you find these as disk, and there is no monitor as such. It happened today. We have a direct output in terms of printing, and you can see that how the storage is being maintained by other persons. So we say more than one person required to handle that computer system. Similarly, this is the CPU side, where manual interference required while running the computer. So this was what in 1950 and 60s we had computer. But now, if you look at the computer systems, this is what we are using today. Mostly the desktop, compact form, laptops, portable disk, and that is what easy to use the today's system. So it means we have progressed in one way, that we have shrunk the size from very large computer. If you look at the last screen and the CPU, now the size of CPU, it justifies that, yes, we have made progress in terms of innovation. But when we look at the future, certainly we have more advanced technologies which are at the trial runs, and hopefully we need to adapt in near future. So now just look that we have further shrink the device. And also, not that, we are also able to somewhere sense the human signals and to reflect on the screen. And I believe most of the smart TVs are today available where the gestures are being recognized. And you must have seen most of the children playing video games in front of the smart TV. With their gestures, the screen actions comes that way. And in addition, if we look at the John's law, one of the famous research study, you can find this in Future for All, that cost is what consistent is, but the technology exponentially propagated in 1982. If we see, we had traditional computer, very basic computer. And then in 2012, we moved to 64-bit laptops. But in 2042, this way, there is a possibility that we could implant a chip in the brain. So it means if somebody wants to increase the memory, this is possible subject to law. So this is how the computer industry moved from 1950s to till date in 2021. Approximately 70 to 80 years, there is a tremendous progress time to time. And in a nutshell, what we find common in these 70, 80 years, the algorithms did exist and will exist. Algorithm, as you all understand, is some definite steps to perform the logical solution. And with time, we did upgrade the softwares. Hardware innovation is there as we are able to shrink the devices. There is always a scientific approach, which is the pillar of this working. State-of-art technology adoption as and when we had a new technology being easily adapted by the society. And of course, the social needs, as we see the today apps like FB, Twitter, these are the social needs as well as, kind of business, day-to-day business has come. So we would observe in a nutshell, there are some similarities from past to future technologies. And this is what the pillar of software development, which we say the scientific computer, right from the firmware programming, which is required for chips, C and assembly, a bit higher level, C++ for high level, where one can write the modules. But Python, MATLAB they have taken the domain today because they have invited the interdisciplinary people. Now the person from zoology, botany, bioinformatics, they need not to be expert in computer science, but yes, they can directly start with Python or MATLAB, the scientific programming. And that's what we say, that today computer is not only an isolated subject, but it has taken all the subjects in one domain. And a common word has come out of this that is called interdisciplinary research work. And this is what possible because of the scientific computing did explore from time to time. So with this brief introduction about where we were, where we are, I will take you to now more focus towards the artificial intelligence. So what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is a part of computer science. I think you can easily locate this laser pointer. This computer science is having many subjects. From students' point of view, in bachelor's or master's level, you must be aware of the subjects like operating system, computer arithmetics, and similarly, there is a subject called artificial intelligence. Those who are new to these subjects, I will give you a very quick one-line definition for each one. The operating system is what? Windows 10, Windows XP, Linux, these all are operating system to run the computer hardware. Then we have computer arithmetic, where ground level calculations are done for chip making. Then we have the data structure and algorithms analysis, where the memory storage type structures are understood. Then we have another subject is theory of computations, where the compiler construction, basic fundamentals and formal methods are studied. Then we have programming languages, where the advancements of programming fundamentals are included. Then we have computer graphics. What we see, what we do is what today, if we are able to project you the right picture remotely, that is what computer graphic is the foundation. Then we have software engineering, which believes in how to develop a project scientifically step by step, and database management system, as the role of data is very crucial, amount of data is increasing. So we need a management system, and that comes under this. And in addition, the today talk that is about artificial intelligence. This is one of the old subject, but the talk is new, Today everybody talks for artificial intelligence, but this is something more than 60 years old subject. And this artificial intelligence major focus always remain is to compete with respect to human. And this is what the artificial intelligence ground start. So in McCarthy, 1956, he said that this is basically a group of two words, artificial and intelligence. We need to make the devices intelligent. And to what an extent we need to make intelligent is to at par with the human behavior. What human expected to do, we need that same behavior from the machine. And that's what makes artificially intelligent devices. And this is the concept that came in 1956. So how do we prove that a system or a device is artificially intelligent enabled? So there is a Turing test which being introduced. Actually, Turing test came in 1940s by Alan Turing. And most of you must be aware that there is a Turing Award, the highest award in computer science research. So Turing test says that if there is an interrogator, he cannot see these two objects. One is the human and another is machine. If some output is coming from these two to this interrogator, no one can see each other. And this interrogator cannot find that who is the sender, either the human or the machine. That is what the level of competence we expect from an AI. So it means it passed the Turing test. And that is how we establish that our developed device is artificially intelligent. So with this information, let's explore AI branches. As computer science had multiple branches, similarly, AI having dimensions. We don't say branches because branches make it little, we say in the direction of mutually exclusive way, but these are all interdependent. For example, the pattern recognition, computer vision, natural language processing, machine learning, deep learning, intelligent robotics, cognitive, game playing, and so many dimensions of AI today exist. But one thing is very interesting out of all this is machine learning. This machine learning somewhere include all the other dimensions too. Somewhere all others dimensions which we say pass through machine learning. So machine learning, we can say a very big span of AI. And the best part is it is a very rich mathematical model based. If we talk about machine learning, it's every technique is having a mathematical proof behind it. That makes it more stronger to implement. And we have formal methods to justify in advance of experiments. What it means that if we have not done the experiments, but mathematically we can prove the extent of accuracy of the proposed methods. And that's why we say most of the today work has been done in machine learning, but as a luck, machine learning do share all the other dimensions too. So that's why we will talk mainly about machine learning to give a core of area artificial intelligence, right? The talk for we say the theme of today. So why machine learning and AI? If we look at the Lancet study recently, artificial intelligence and its future of global health. This is one of the interesting paper. This paper truly justifies that AI is what taking the global health future for tomorrow, right? Mainly the 4 pillars, which are the diagnosis, right? Patient risk assessment, disease outbreak, and health policies. And these 4 major areas of research are now AI driven, means artificially intelligent driven in global health. But not only this, if we look at the other study where AI and machine learning comparative analysis done for the medical devices in last 5 years, 2015 to 20, another Lancet study, it further justify that we need to depend on devices other than the manual work. Any kind of diagnosis or any kind of purchase of any device should be artificially intelligent enabled as well as machine learning. When we say as well as machine learning, it means the machine learning is what artificially intelligence, because it is a sub umbrella of AI. So with these 2 studies, this is somewhat a very confident parameter comes, and that says, yes, we need to adapt it today. If we are developing any device or any app or any system, it should have AI ingredient in that. Because if we have to compete with the accuracy, we have to compete with the complexities for future data, it should have ML, means machine learning features. So dear listeners, the machine learning easy to understand. Samuel in 1959 defined in very simple words that where explicitly it is not programmed. Because in a traditional computer program, what happens, we enter the data, we have written the program and we get the output. But that's not the case with machine learning. In machine learning, we have the data, we have the output, but we want to devise a mechanism out of it, a pattern out of it, right? And that's, you can say in easy words, a kind of programming fluctuation. That is what the machine learning idea is, that to learn from the data. So machine learning, if we look at the overview level, we have some common areas And these all areas are interdependent. They are not, independent of each other. And these promising areas are regression, classification, clustering, natural language processing, deep learning, dimension reductions, and many other like hidden Markov models or online learning. So now what I'm going to present you today is that I will cover these topics of machine learning one by one in very brief way in view to see the time, as well as the audience, mainly the students of postgraduate and graduate level, and will give you an idea that how health industry is accepting these machine learning techniques, right? So let's start with the regression first, where you see that regression, some of the common techniques are linear, polynomial, support vectors. So basically, these are the regression techniques. Regression, if you have not understood earlier the word, it is something we try to fit the data for the allotted curve, right? Now we could have the curve of various nature. Let's see. For example, linear regression, we have a linear line, then we have multiple, then we have polynomial, a kind of a polygraph. And more or less it looked like this. This is a linear line graph where we try to fit the data. So there are two parts of this. One is the training data. Training data is the data we already have. And I would like to tell you that all these graphs are self-generated on the COVID data of Chandigarh, right? So we have done the experiments on the COVID data of Chandigarh region, and the graphs are developed accordingly. So all graphs are subject to the done case study, right? So this is the training data, right, in linear regression. And when we run the test data, we get some output like this. So it is as good as bad, because we are not happy with this linear regression point of view, because a lot of the data is not on the line, blue line, which is the core focus to find out the pattern. So what it means that linear regression is not that competitive technique unless until your data is very, very, very simple in nature. But of course, the COVID data is not simple. Then look at the polynomial data, which gives us further promising results. Just look at this. We find very, very close match to the ideal line. So it means the COVID data is somewhere behaves curvical in nature, right? Then another regression technique is support vector regression. Support vector regression, you can understand that we have an ideal line, but we have two planes on either side, and we try to find out the points by defining a margin with respect to ideal line, right? And I will not go into the mathematical background of this method, because I am aware that most of us are not from, of course, mathematics background. So let's just talk about the algorithmic feature as well as its implementation. So when we look at the support vector point of view, it is again very interesting line. When we run the experiments, we find that yes, promising it is, and somewhere we are close to training data indication. Then we have another method, which is decision tree regression. Decision tree regression basically divides into various branches, just like a tree is having branches. So decision tree tries to give branches and then try to fit the data, right? For example, you have a data in 0 to 100 scale, so it tries to build up the branches in 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, and so on. So each branch will be fit according to the allotted data. And interestingly, this also fit. Of course, for training data, it will fit suitably, but for test data, it has not disappointed us, and it has given a very reasonable amount of accuracy. So we say that decision tree is another promising area for the COVID data understanding, especially for the Chandigarh region. Then we move the regression study to random forest regression, one of the promising method. Random forest, you can say, an extension of decision tree regression, where we form sub-decision trees. And as it is an upgradation of decision tree regression, our expectations are again high. And of course, it has reasonably given good indication, but almost for COVID data, it's at par with decision tree regression. So in a nutshell, we say these regressions analysis data are very important in medical healthcare. I have taken the example of COVID data for Chandigarh, but you just look at this paper of 1978. 1978, you can say approximately it's now 45 to 50 years gap. And this paper easily justify in medical care that regression models for healthcare data is very promising. This paper core idea was to establish that if we have to understand the healthcare data, we have to see its regression analysis, especially train versus test data. And that's what the experiments we have done with all the promising 5 methods of regression. And this is the time of 1978. If you look at the recent study published in Nature Journal of Scientific Reports, we find that this linear and logistic regressions are another promising technique for osteoarthritis problems, right? They have formed the biomarkers, and this is a UK-based study where they have taken a very good amount of, millions. I think they have covered more than they say OA cases of in million amount, and they have given a very good indication that regression is another promising area to know the pattern, how the disease is behaving, right? So with this regression, this is how machine learning regression area behaves. And now I take you to another area of machine learning. As I told you, all are dependent, they are not independent, they are dependent, but this is up to the focus where we want to put the study at that particular problem, sub-problem, you say. Then we have classification. Classification is simple, like we want to classify, there are 2 types of data. One is liquid, one is very hard, and we want to identify unknown data, whether it belongs to liquid side or hard side. So that is the prime approach of classification. So classification is having also promising methods like logistic regressions, k-nearest neighbor, support vector, naive-based, decision, and random forest. So you can say that regression and classification behave as cousins to each other, right? So let's not get into the mathematics behind it, but logistic regression is basically a logistic function which we use. And this is what the logistic function, we fit it to cost function. We try to derive the error rate again and again, unless until we reach to a promising point. And when we run this is again, when we run this logistic regression, we find that the training, you see green and red. These are the 2 types of data. And this is their classification boundary. And when we run the test data, we find with logistic regression, we find very promising line. We are able to differentiate a large amount of data, test data. Test is which is unknown data. And with this logistic regression, we have another technique, which is k-nearest neighbor. K-nearest neighbor basically, is that promising mean value of the given neighborhood. So with that Euclidean distance, we have, let's suppose, 2 type of data, and there is a red point. So question comes, red point belongs to this type of data or blue type of data. So this is what the ideally, with mean value of each cluster, we find the distance, and the less distance is what the future class is. So when we run this experiment, we find that, again, this is promising technique. This, able to classify, we say that promising classify KNN. And then we have a support vector machine, just like regression, but in support vector machine, our idea is not to find out the regressive analysis, but we need to find out the classification, whether the data belongs to this side or data belongs to this side. So support vector machine, as I told you, it's based on the hyperplane concept, the distance with respect to hyperplane of each class, and results are again very promising. I would like to tell you more than 25,000 papers being written in first 8 years between 2003 to 2011 on support vector machine in just view to see its success. Now I think it must be in lakhs. So it means SVM is very promising technique to differentiate the data. Then another promising statistical technique of classification is naive-Bayes theorem. Naive-Bayes theorem concept is simple, that it find out the probability of a given element out of a given class in the given subset, and we come with the probability concept. This is one of the promising technique. And of course, when we run the data, we find very promising curve. The best part is the curve is very smooth in this case. But only the penalty is that once the data is on the wrong side, you cannot take it to other side even after a lot of improvement. But in a nutshell, very promising. And then we have decision tree and random forest classification, just like regression, and their results are again promising, although it leaves a lot of gaps in between. But these are, we say, promising techniques, as well as all these techniques which are discussed in classifications are used in research papers related to healthcare. So this is what the World Health Organization website, where it is indicated clearly that classifications are some of the most important, and there you find Kaggle-like websites where they have taken the classification very seriously for healthcare data. Recently, for the COVID-19, they have taken a very serious step towards the classifying the data. So we can say that classification is one of the core part of research for the COVID data. So let's come back to our picture of machine learning. After regression classification, the another promising area of machine learning is clustering. Clustering is to make out the cluster. For example, if the COVID-19 spread in Chandigarh, if we have to understand, where the rates, where the cases are higher or moderate. So either we have to look at the sector side or we have to form a cluster, right? So clustering do help to find out if we get a lot of people of similar age in one area, or in different area, we can make a cluster of that, so that identify on the individual basis. So there are two promising techniques. One is the k-means clustering techniques, where we find out the k number of elements and their mean distance with each other. For example, in this value the k is 2, and we try to differentiate and make out the cluster out of these two. And with the WCSS sum of square score, we find that where the curve is giving more indication, that is the point of separation. So there is another method that is called hierarchical clustering. In hierarchical clustering, we try to make a tree type of structure, and then we try to segregate. Each one is at the promising or a given distance. So why clustering is important? If we look at this Nature study of endocrinology, recent study of 2021 for type 2 diabetes, the clustering is found to be very promising technique to find out the people with that particular disease. They have taken approximately a data of more than 100,000, and they are able to justify that some age group across the countries with some similar habits, they developed the type 2 diabetes. So this is one of the interesting papers, right? So, and where the clustering role has been clearly identified. So let's move to next. I'm sorry if I'm fast, but I have to cover, So then we have the next one is dimension reduction. Dimension reduction is basically the data when features are a lot of features, like DNA, we have DNA data, a lot of 20,000 you have a sequence. So how you reduce the data, and whatever you reduce the data, we should have, very small amount of data should come to us, and that should be very meaningful data. That is very important. So PCA, principal component analysis, a very rich mathematical eigenvalues based technique. Eigenvalues you must have studied in algebra. There we find out the promising eigenvectors, and where the values of that threshold of eigenvector lies, there we cut the data, and that data becomes promising. Means if we have the 100 size data, and with the 30% we find the promising, rest not. So we cut that at the 30, and 30% is very less in size as compared to 100, but that is as powerful as of 100. So this kind of data reduction technique, PCA, is promising, and we look at this when running the data, we see that we are able to give the same number of regions, and we also able to justify where the each data would belong to. Similarly, the extension of principal component is linear discriminant analysis, where not only orthogonality feature, but here we try to correlate with respect to the different clusters and to find out the horizontal projection instead of the orthogonal feature. And the study, if we look at principal component analysis in recent years, if we look at the 2020 study, it is published in Cognitive Computation that for COVID-19 genome sequence, which is a very long sequence, they have mentioned that, look at this, that 20,000 sequences have been submitted. Now in this 20,000, if we try to write this in a row wise, 20,000 is a big sequence. It's ultimately very tough to handle that type of feature length. So PCA observed to be very promising, and that able to reduce the data, at least they could find out 25 to 45% of data out of that given 100 scale, and results are as promising. So with this data reduction, we have the next, I'm sorry, these some kind of yellow lines are coming on screen. I'm sorry, this is not at my end. So, okay, so the next one is deep learning technique, which we say the artificially neural network inspired technique in machine learning. And we say the deep learning, everybody talk about deep learning. So this is another important feature of machine learning. And deep learning basically derived from the neural network concept, where the data try to be understood at the core level, at the bottom level, and layer by layer, the data is understood. Convolutional or recurrent neural network are the two pillars to understand this data, and that's why they form the major term as deep learning. But interestingly, this deep learning is not only now limited to neural network. Other methods like support vector machines, hidden Markov model, they have also approach towards the working of deep learning. So if we look at the convolutional neural network as a study of deep learning, what is this? This is basically a artificial neural networks where a lot of nodes are there, and we try to train the nodes and come out with some answer. It is something like you have an image, an MRI image, and you try to train with neural network and you get the output. But before you try with neural network, you need to perform some steps. Or we say you need to convolute the steps. So that steps are here, that you take the input image, you make the convolutional out of this, you make a pooling, flattening, and when your feature vector is well prepared, you send it for neural network working, and that's what make it a compact CNN architecture. So let's see with one example. You have a feature map. Let's suppose this is an MRI image in zeros and one form finally. Then we take its convolution layer by making set of this. Set means the first three, then the next three, and we have a lot of sets out of this. Then we make its pooling layer. This means it's dividing into further small parts. And after that, we make out the nodes for this. These are actually the ingredient or the inputs for artificial neural networks. And when we look at in a comprehensive picture, we try to train these nodes recursively. And every time the gradient value change with respect to the error, we do these steps again and again. And with multiple iterations, our data is trained. So finally, the shape of data comes like this. And the CNN inspired from ANN is what exactly the deep learning one point of view to train. But I would like to mention that today, CNN has been observed one of the successful technique for imaging, whether it is handwriting recognition imaging or OCRs or medical imaging, but deep learning is more promising as compared to other techniques because it is giving very high amount of accuracies. So again, when we look at the results of these techniques, we find that recently the Nature journal, we observed the medical imaging and electronic health records of deep learning. This has found to be very useful. So these all are the papers from which we can inspire and we can look these techniques for the healthcare sector. And another machine intelligence, we find work recent about deep learning, where the medical image classification has been observed, right? This all possible because of the CNN architecture. And if you look at their promising F1 score are very promising for Amazon's, Apple's, Clarify, they have taken the best of the data sets from this. So this is exactly, we have the common ML umbrella. In addition, we have the big data umbrella where the data amount is very large and we perform the special function, another branch of ML. Then there are another few techniques like online learning where we do not require training data. What the data comes becomes the training data. We have genetic programming part. We have hidden Markov models. So all these together comes under the machine learning we say area. So with this, I would now like to take you just 5 minutes toward that COVID-19 data of Chandigarh, how it behaves, so that I will finish the talk in time, in the allotted time, right? So I believe my screen is visible. Let me open the editor, software editor. So what I'm going to present you is actually work done using Python and sklearn libraries, where we have done some study on COVID-19 data of Chandigarh. Chandigarh is having approximately 82 sectors, including villages, yes, because there are 63 sectors, but rest are the villages. So I will say all these as sectors, which we basically have taken the data, COVID-19 data, we have understood the patterns. They are studied with respect to machine learning techniques like regressions, classifications, and we are finding some important patterns out of this. But here I will give you their graphs so that you can easily see that how it could, how we can infer some more knowledge from this. So let me first run this, and I believe, yes. So I believe graphs are visible. So this is from sector 1 to 5, as 1 to 5 population is, very, we can say as compared to other sectors. So we have combined these sectors. So this is, the idea here is that these are the dates. We have taken the data from approximately 1st of October to till date. Every day we try to update the data, and this is the cases. Mark is subject to 7 days moving average, right? So you can easily see that in recent time we have a surge. But what is important here is, I would like to take you to directly, we have all the sectors graph. So just wait, this is all over Chandigarh region, right? So if you see the Chandigarh region, that after the February, the cases are surging high. Now what the machine learning is expected to do, we are doing the experiments and we are finding the graphs, sensitive areas, and we are doing the regression as well as classification analysis so that we could identify those areas, those dates, as well as the areas in Chandigarh where we can break the chain. We can make the system more sensitized that yes, this is the time when we should take more care because the pattern is fluctuating. And interestingly, if you look at the two sectors here, one is PGI. Look at this PGI campus. The most interesting is that PGI itself says I am a hospital, because the data is totally different from other sectors, because we have most of the data, it means of the patients. Otherwise in residential, the graph is different. But for PGI or 32 sector, the graph is almost same. So it means they have collected mostly the study of the patients. They have the cases of the patients. And what is the most surging sector of Chandigarh is Mani Majra. Look at their scale. They are reaching to 75 cases on an average per day. And look at the surge they have. And it is totally different from like PGI or 32 sector. And look, they are not controlling even right now. They are just exponentially, approaching, and that is where we have major need to stop it. We have to take some strong steps here to make this peak down, as well as, another I would like to give you important sector, then we'll take you to the another graph. This is, yes, this is 32 sectors. So if you see, this is very close to nature of graph of PGI. But interestingly, in 32 sector for last 1 week or so, yes, am I audible?
Dr. Anuj, you are audible.
Audible, sir, audible.
Just give me 2 minutes, then I compile. I'm sorry to
Okay, not an issue.
Just give
Carry
me
on.
So if we look at this graph, this is something generated out of this machine learning technique. So here we have taken the, first of all, the sorting, that which sector is, having the more cases. But in addition, we have taken the another parameter, that is the polynomial regression parameters. It's testing. We have tried to give a reflection, and we find that, very promising 5 sectors sets. So we have formed a cluster, what we talked about machine learning technique clustering. And we find that, yes, they all could be grouped together because they are very close to each other. You just see their graphs. They all are competing with each other. So the idea is here all about that we are not basically looking after a very firm solution. We are looking a very flexible solution that could fit to various places. If we able to form the clusters, we could find out the hidden pattern out of this. And the idea is that if we have any kind of change in the pattern with respect to the regular cases, we can easily say that, yes, now the data is changed. It means either the data is going towards the lower side or towards the higher side, and exclusively for the sub-region of the given region. So that was, I believe, the work is on. And just to say that how promising the results could be. So these all are very promising machine learning techniques. If we look at the SVM classification, you just see the score. Score is very, 1, which is the largest scale. What it means, if we try to give the false data from our side to the original data, it can easily identify which one is false data and which one is true. So what it indicates that one can easily find out the hidden patterns of COVID cases in the respective sub-regions of Chandigarh. So that was from my side for today. And I really thankful for all your patience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a great presentation, such a great session which we had today. And yeah, thank you so much. And I hope this would have enlightened everyone and made their concepts clear for regarding to using machine learning and AI applications in healthcare systems. So yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Now I will like to invite Vinod sir to give his presidential remarks. So yes, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I must thank and appreciate the presentation made by Dr. Anuj Sharma. He explained in detail as well as in brief the progression of computers, how it developed over the last 60 to 70 years. I still remember when we used to do work on DEC 2050, the computer was such a huge that a big hall was required. And memory was hardly 4 megabyte or so, and speed was so less. Now you can see that how we have progressed to laptop type computers, which are having very powerful computational power, as well as we have memory, which is in terabytes. Lot of development has taken place. And we are expecting that, as Dr. Anuj has also said, that by 2042, we may expect a chip in the brain. So this is how the progression has taken place over the last 50, 60 years. There is a big or large or huge development even in the area of software also. It's not only the hardware, even the software. Application software has been developed over the year, and it started from simple signal processing, image processing. Now it has come to artificial intelligence, machine intelligence, etc., etc. So in the second part, he explained various components of a computer science branch, and AI is one of that, artificial intelligence. Then he explained various dimensions of the AI, where machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision, pattern recognition, he explained in brief very nicely. Lastly, he moved to machine learning, where he said machine learning is will be a must part in every and each and every medical equipment. That is very true. And he also explained various dimensions of the machine learning, right from regression, classification, clustering, dimension reduction, deep learning, big data, etc., where he explained various tools also like PCA, principal component analysis, LDA, neural network. So he very clearly said that machine learning is basically based on mathematical algorithms, mathematics. So even if there is no physical or experimental proof is there, but mathematical proof is there to validate your algorithms, etc. So, and finally, he discussed the research work he is doing in the recent days, that is COVID data analysis using Python-based algorithms, etc. And he has done and explained very nicely the data acquired, COVID data acquired with respect to Chandigarh for various sectors and how the pattern varies from one sector to another sector and with reasoning. I am very thankful to Dr. Anuj for giving a very interesting talk and will be very useful to my younger group who are attending this session. Now, if I just try to see that artificial intelligence, one application is the current application, that is coronavirus data analysis, which is people are working across India, across the world, and various models are being presented. Google, with the help of Apple, they have also tied up to develop corona virus data analysis, and one application they have developed, that is to detect when a user is close to a corona positive person. That means in your smartwatch, it can be there, in your mobile phone can be there, this app, so that you can immediately get a warning that a corona positive patient is very near to you. Similarly, the smartwatches are available where artificial intelligence, machine learning tools are being used. Fitbit, Apple Watch, and recent Apple Watch of series 4, 5, 6. There you will find in series 6 of Apple Watch, ECG is also being recorded and ECG analysis is also being done. It gives the analysis that there are missing beat, arrhythmia is there. The complete analysis is online or on the screen, and it is personalized also, which is very, very important. And the whole data is transmitted to your physician also. There are many other applications in the smartwatch, whether it is Apple smartwatch or Fitbit. Then so many applications, as Dr. Anuj has touched one application that by using machine learning, we can, or people have given the models for biomarkers for osteoarthritis patients. Similarly, there are algorithms which are available for the cardiac arrest analysis. That means by using the ECG signal and other parameters, it can be predicted by using ECG and some blood test and some more parameters. It can be identified when next or a heart attack or a cardiac arrest can be predicted. Similarly, you can say there are algorithms which are being developed or being tested, that is muscular degeneration, to predict disease progression. So AI is very much in medical diagnosis, especially in imaging, whether it is medical imaging, CT scan, whether it is ultrasound, whether it is MRI, etc., and to make it personalized, that whether the disease progression is in which direction. And even if the size of the tumor is not easily visible, but from the pixel placement of the pixel, the intensity of the pixels in the image, it is being predicted whether the tumor is there or not, how the tumor is being progressed. So in medical imaging, in medical signal processing, whether it is ECG signal, EEG signal, etc., for disease diagnosis, this imaging, this AI is being used. Second major application of AI is clinical decision support. So it is also one of the very important field where AI is being applied to have a clinical decision support, which helps the medical practitioner to give proper diagnosis or better diagnosis. Then AI is also being used for personalized medicine. So in short, I can say that the future is of AI, and skilled manpower is required in this particular direction. With the idea, with the background of biomedical engineering, there is a lot of scope. I will advise my younger generation to work in this particular field, and there is a huge scope in this particular field. And if anybody, and I can add here, if anyone is interested, anyone has any point to discuss with me, since I have done some work in this particular area, all my younger people, younger generation, younger students are, you can say, are most welcome to contact me anytime. With these words, I close, and I thank you for inviting me to this particular presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod sir, for such great remarks which you have made right now. And now, thank you so much everyone for joining to this session. Now, there are some certain questions which our participants are having right now. And one such question is from Dr. Simranjit Kaur, and I think so this question is for Anuj sir.
Yeah, please.
How could the use of artificial intelligence within healthcare be beneficial to a patient? So this is her question, if you can answer.
Well, I think it is very generic question, and can she specify to what health they need artificial intelligence? What is the area they want to use it?
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Simha, can you just specify your question by writing that in the chat box itself? Or maybe you can just mail or do some like messaging and all those things. Or you can unmute yourself, or whatever option you have. Dr. Simajit?
Yes, sir. I'm very much here. Sir, I want to know how could it be, beneficial to the patients, especially like at this specific time period of COVID, under the prevailing COVID-19 situation. Like patient is admitted in the hospital. So how this artificial intelligence could be benefited to the patients lying out there in the hospitals?
Okay, so I got your question.
We are doing a lot of analysis and data analysis, and we are checking the patterns, and we are doing every bit. Researchers, scientists, all are doing every bit, So we are trying to analyze the pattern, and beautiful work done by you. Many congratulations. But I just want to know how could it be beneficial to a patient lying in the hospital while we are carrying out these studies out here?
First of all, thanks. And I would like to comment on this. If you have seen the presentation, there is a recent comparative analysis which published in Lancet by one of the UK-based authors. They have justified this, question, which is your question, that how we can, make it more fruitful. Because what is happening today, we are with the computers, we are with the data, but there is no concrete analysis in a nutshell. So
exactly.
What they have tried to explain, that we need an expert system which is AI enabled, which can take all the inputs of the various devices and can give a concrete result based on it. So I think already USA, they have mentioned in their paper, some of the laboratories in USA already have developed this, and they are working on this. So if it is okay, I will share the paper link which is in the presentation, and I think Actually, India is a developing country, so it could take some time to take that lead. But at present, the systems are in place.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That would be really appreciated if you share the link. I would like to read that article.
I
Thank you
will
very
send my presentation to Rima ma'am, and she will share it with you. There is no problem.
Okay, sir. Thank you so very much. And this was really very informative and enlightening session, and very, very good analysis. I really congratulate you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Professor Simranjit Kaur, for having your question, and thank you so much, Anuj sir, for answering this. Now we have another question from another participant. His name is Shiva Sharma. So, his question is like, which area of COVID-19 one should focus in present challenging time?
From AI point of view.
Yeah, from AI point of view.
So I believe that if you see what we are doing in Chandigarh, the COVID-19, actually a lot of companies, we are not companies, we are just teachers of the university. So companies are already focusing, they have a lot of resources, so they are working on at a very high level, at country level, continent level. But what we have taken a case study, we have taken case study of Chandigarh, right? Because Chandigarh is what the model city of India, and if we get any new indications out of COVID-19 data, that could be helpful to understand maybe the other cities also, because they are not as model cities designed as yet. So idea is that the COVID-19 is having a main dimension. The first is medical dimension, that we need to understand the problem symptoms and its role, right? That could be understood with AI, and already system is in place. If you look at the NIH website, they have developed a system where with given few symptoms, one can identify not only the COVID-19 but also the stage of COVID-19. And one is the data analysis of the social need, where we are closely working, because we are not doctors. So we are working from the data side, that how to know the patterns of the sectors and how each sector is of Chandigarh is dependent with respect to other sector, or what amount of data they are contributing of COVID-19, and how we can break the chain. That is what we are studying. So I think COVID-19, I won't say is a area to study, but yes, COVID-19 is something that we all need to work to stop it. That should be the agenda, rather than we should take it further. Let's try to build up some patterns of AI, that soon it is possible to stop the spread. That is I think the focus of COVID-19 in any case.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much for such a beautiful answer. And talking about the next question from Jitendra Sharma sir, he's asking question that can we use AI for studying muscle activation pattern in repetitive injuries, and for actually the repetitive strain injuries like neck strain or back sprain. So he wanted to ask in that particular scenario.
Well, I respect your question, but as I am not from medical field, so I may not be the right person to answer this question. But I would like to, as I will share the presentation, there is one osteoarthritis paper. They have mentioned in their reference all the types of injuries and their AI solutions. So I think that paper will definitely help them. And I think that is what I can contribute to this question.
Sure, definitely, sir. Thank you so much for such a good session. I think so. Most of the participants have got answers to their questions. And if you have more questions, you can mail us at info@cbat.in, which will be shared with you right now. So once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Anuj sir, for such a great,
my pleasures, and thanks all of you. My pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you, Vinod sir, for such a great speech, for such a great remark. And thank you, everyone, all the participants, everyone associated with us to have us. And now talking about the next session and its details will be mailed to you, or will be circulated via broadcast groups. So same time and same session, same day, next week. Thank you so much, and bye. Have a good day.
Thank you.